finally, we have our last topic with Miss Click. Brace yourselves for half of the comments to love you and the other half to completely hate you over an opinion about a video game. The timeline placement for Breath of the Wild. If you're watching this video, remember we will be in the comments during the first few hours this video is published, replying to as many people as we can, and we'll continue replying beyond that. So please subscribe, like, and leave your thoughts on where the game takes place on the official timeline in the comments below to join in on the discussion. So Breath of the Wild has been out for a little over a month, and the debate is still going around about where the game takes place on the timeline. We have an idea, but not an exact location, as the game's hints are a bit vague about certain things, and the game even contradicts itself at certain points. So with all of that out of the way, let's begin. I know the game has references, spoilers, which you really shouldn't be watching a timeline video if you don't want spoilers. During Breath of the Wild, during one of the early memories, there is a scene, again, spoilers, where Zelda references Skyward Sword, Ocarina of Time, and Twilight Princess. And then you find out during another cutscene the game takes place at least 10,000 years after the Guardians were created. The actual game that you play takes place 100 years after that. So a lot of people think that the game could still be a convergence of the timeline, because there are the references I always make is the Koroks from the Wind Waker, obviously. The Temple of Time looks like it was pulled out of Ocarina of Time, and the Hyrule Castle looks like it was pulled directly from Twilight Princess. So there are different things from differing Zelda games. But with you, where did you first think it was going to be before the game was actually released? Just going by trailers and speculation. And then where do you think it is now?
I think I was definitely conflicted. I thought that perhaps it would have fallen either in the Wind Waker timeline because of the Koroks, until I had done some further research and reading, you know, like specific wording in Hyrule Historia, or perhaps what a lot of people had gone into as far as saying that it was on the Fallen timeline, you know, and how the text looked like it was Gerudo characters mixed with actual Hylian text, and perhaps it could be Ganon's
so
reign
you went into some very nerdy Zelda stuff there that shocked me.
Sorry.
So that's awesome.
Sorry. No, yeah, when I say Zelda is life, that is kind of a thing. But yeah, you know, you read those texts and stuff like that. So it was definitely kind of like, oh wow, has Ganondorf really had control long enough, or Ganon, you know, to inspire and enforce a new law of the land, a new writing and stuff like that. And then I think after initially playing the game, you know, that was actually the first cutscene I found. That was probably one of the scariest ones to find, because it's surrounded by guardians, and I don't think I had a horse at the time. But it was, you know, she gives those 3 direct references. So you're like, okay, so it's definitely acknowledging at least one timeline. But then you're looking at the map, and instead of Tingle with LE, it's Tingle with an EL. Yeah. So you're like, okay, is that just an Easter egg, or is that kind of like folklore legend that's kind of been passed down a little bit? Like there was a man who lived with his parents, you know? And then there's Linebeck Island, you know, and then there's Makar, and so you have all these different names. So are they just Easter eggs in the map? But surely they wouldn't have neglected it enough to where they would have just thrown it in the map and been like, haha, there's nostalgia for you. I would love to think that perhaps it is a convergence of them, and maybe one of the next installments, you know, they're gonna, maybe this is all being added in after the fact, and they're trying to put a timeline together now since the fan base really wanted that. And maybe their next game is that game that proves the convergence, you know, of all the timelines, and that makes sense.
So you're still up for the convergence theory? I'm
totally, like, whatever Nintendo wants to do, like, you know, I'll go with it. I'll roll with it. You know, they're honestly, like, some of the most, you know, like, genuine-hearted people I know. So if they really don't know something, like, when they ask them in the interview, what planet is Hyrule on? They look at each other and they're like, Earth, I think. Yeah, let's go with that, you know? So it was like, either they were really good at intentionally acting cute, or they genuinely just hadn't really thought about some of those you know, details. So I think if they do make it a convergence, I wouldn't be surprised. You know, it's like adding in a Link Between Worlds, you know, with Lorule and everything. That's something that they introduced very seamlessly, but it still, you know, felt like oh, this is normal. This has been a myth, you know, because at the same time, if that's a parallel universe, well, technically couldn't that have been Terminator 2, or are there 3? Are there different dimensions? Like, what's, you know, going on? So, I mean, I'm up for anything, but at the same time, I don't know. I personally think that, you know, if there was a more specific timeline, maybe I'd throw my hint more onto, you know, the child timeline, you know, with Twilight Princess, right. because of that specific cutscene.
Yeah. Whenever I first seen, I believe the first trailer they showed off was the one where it ends with the pan-in on the Master Sword, and I noticed, well, a lot of people noticed, there was the reference to the A Link to the Past artwork, to where there was like the flowers and then
exact stones and everything. Yeah.
Yeah. So there was that reference. There was everything referencing all 3 of the different timelines. So in my head, I was like, this could literally be anywhere on the timeline. And then Aonuma started dropping hints. And in one interview, I don't know how literal you could take this, but he said that while the game may take certain aspects or references from the Wind Waker, the story itself doesn't necessarily have anything to do with the Wind Waker. That could be him saying that it's just not a direct prequel or a direct sequel, or it could be him saying that it just doesn't take place on that timeline at all. So it just how literal you want to take that.
If I'm not mistaken, didn't they mention a Great Flood at one point though? In
the game?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure there was at least a flood mentioned at one point. I don't know. But, I mean, hey, like the desert, was that receding waters at one point? I don't know. Yeah. It's crazy to think about.
So, I think there's, again, like you were saying, there's all of the different references to everything. I don't know, like, they originally wrote everything out in Japanese, and then the translators and everything had their freedom to name certain areas and stuff. Like one person that I had on, he named some of the characters in Skyward Sword. Groose was one of his things that he was most proud about that he did while he worked at Nintendo. He was on the localization team. But he said that like the only thing that Nintendo told them is that it had to be like everyone's name had to be a reference to a bird. They didn't specifically say his name in Japanese is this, it directly translates to this. So there wasn't like very strict on the naming of stuff, so I wonder if like the different versions of the games have those references too, or if the Nintendo of America team just thought it would be a fun Easter egg or reference. Right. So I would love to know that, but I probably never will unless I learn to read Japanese. So yeah, I like if I was made to choose, I would pick somewhere after Twilight Princess, as that's the most logical place. But there's still the open possibility that it could be a convergence and that story wasn't told. The DLC could explain a little bit more about exactly where it's at. We don't really know yet. Right. So, you know, maybe there's a journal or a diary somewhere like Zelda's diary that gives a little bit more of a hint that
what if it's already in the game right now and no one's found it?
Yeah.
What if it's literally been in the game this entire time and no one's found it?
Like, did you see the GameSpot, I believe? They made the April Fool's thing where you
controlling
could, like,
the Guardian?
Yeah. Like, I was like, so funny. I was like, the game's been out a month and nobody's figured this out yet. Like, it's not even in the guide. In my head, I was like, this is too awesome to be true. And then because I just seen the title of the video, then I clicked on it and seen that it was just uploaded that day. So I was like, okay, okay.
That was
funny.
Really good. I give them props on that. I give them props.
So, but, you know, there are plenty of stuff that I haven't come across in the game, so who knows?
Well, howdy everyone. My name is Miss Click. Probably most of you do not know me. Not exactly a one-hit wonder, but I kind of just bursted onto the YouTube scene.
I want to thank you all for watching this video and welcome to the End Slate. If you're a fan of these videos, you can follow me on Twitter for updates on future videos at GameOverJesse. Please subscribe, like, and let us know your thoughts in the comments below. If you would like to watch even more of my videos, click the video to the left or let me know what types of videos you would like to see in the future. I would like to take the rest of this time to thank all of my Patreon supporters. If you're a fan of this channel and would also like to help us out by becoming becoming a Patreon supporter and get some awesome rewards for yourself, like being a part of my videos, shoutouts, custom avatars, giveaways, being added to our private Discord to chat during live streams, and more, please visit patreon.com/GameOverJesse, where even smaller supporters at the $1 level will get you some awesome stuff. Finally, a huge thank you to this month's supporters: George Says Hi, Link Uses the Triforce, Transcendent Sacred Courage, Glenn Cassio, Prey Warrior, Lunarium, Chris Gasperin, Harris Priest, Lovable Christie, Key of Time 15, Jerome Measure, Daryl Quinnen, Furzin 16, Kadrin, Magic Tech Review, and the Itch Network.